Elliot's Noisy Night, written and illustrated by Andrea Beck. Elliot Moose was worried. Last night, he'd heard noises in bed, and though he'd managed not to think about them much all day, now that it was dark, he couldn't think of anything else. As he hurried to the kitchen for a bedtime snack, Elliot imagined scary things. "Did anyone hear noises last night?" Elliot asked his friends. "Noises?" replied Socks. "Yes, bumping and whooshing," said Elliot. "It sounded like something was in the house. I hid under my covers all night." "Bumping?" said Paisley. "Whooshing?" whimpered Puff. Everyone moved closer together. But when Amy arrived with cookies still warm from the oven, Elliot's friends became quite brave. "It must have been a dream," said Socks. "Or your imagination," said Amy. "I think it was an Elliot-eating monster," hooted Angel, and everyone laughed, even Elliot. Elliot's friends chattered on, but he kept thinking about the noises. What if there was something in the house? The closer it got to bedtime, the more frightened he became.
Why scared?
He's scared of the noises that he heard.
Why?
He wanted to tell Socks or Paisley, but what if everyone laughed again? Elliot decided to go see Beaverton instead.
Where's Elliot?
Let's see. Elliot was almost at Beaverton's cupboard when he heard a noise. Whir, whir, whump! He burst through Beaverton's door and slammed it shut behind him. "There's something out there!" he cried. "Listen!" But as they put their ears to the door, Elliot noticed that Beaverton didn't seem worried. After listening very carefully, Elliot grinned.
Why?
"It's the fridge!" he exclaimed. Beaverton grinned too. "I knew you'd figure it out," he said.
Why it's not the monster?
Yeah,
Why?
it's not a monster, it was the fridge. As Beaverton walked Elliot to bed, they talked about the other noises Elliot had heard. "No wonder you've got the willies," said Beaverton. "Don't worry, Elliot. House noises sound louder at night. The furnace whooshes, the floors creak, the shutters
Mommy?
bang in the wind. Lionel and I are so
Mommy?
used to it, we never wake up anymore."
I'm scared in the dark.
He's just very nervous. He's scared of the dark.
Why?
Elliot felt better, but he brought Beaverton's flashlight to bed just in case. Later, Elliot awoke with a start. Whir, whir, whump, came a noise. He shivered. Then he remembered the fridge. Whoosh! He quivered. Then he remembered the furnace. Bump, bump, bang! Elliot closed his eyes and smiled. He wasn't going to be frightened by a silly loose shutter. But then Elliot heard something else. Shuffle, shuffle, shuffle. Elliot's tummy jumped. Beaverton hadn't explained shuffling sounds. What could they be? Suddenly, a ghostly figure appeared in his doorway, and Elliot's fur stood right up on end. "Are you awake?" came a wavering voice. Elliot shrank deep beneath his covers. As the figure came closer, Elliot noticed pajamas and a pink blanket. It was Socks! Her slippers were making the shuffling sound. I heard bumping, whispered Socks. Don't worry, said Elliot bravely. It's just the wind blowing the shutters. Socks wanted to sleep over just in case, so they snuggled down together in Elliot's cozy bed. A moment later, the friends heard a loud thump. It wasn't the fridge or the furnace, and it didn't sound like the shutters either. Elliot and Socks grabbed each other's paws. Thump! Thump! They dove under the covers. Thump! Thump! Suddenly, the covers were snatched away. Something's following us, cried Amy and Paisley, and they jumped into Elliot's bed. Thump! Thump! Came the noise again. Something's coming, cried Snowy and Puff, and they jumped into Elliot's bed too. Thumpity thump! Thump! Angel came barreling out of the darkness. I hear noises, she shrieked, and she leapt into Elliot's bed. All of a sudden, the thumping stopped. The friends listened, wide-eyed. After a minute, Amy sighed. We made those thumping noises, she cried. Everyone groaned. Then they giggled. Then they settled down for the night. One by one, the friends fell asleep, except for Elliot, who felt rather crowded. So only Elliot heard the scariest sound of all. Swish, swish. He froze. What could it be? Lionel? Beaverton? No, they never woke up at night, and all of Elliot's other friends were in his bed. Swish, swish. Maybe there was an Elliot-eating monster after all. The sound came closer and closer. Elliot's tummy scrunched into a knot. What should he do? He fumbled for Beaverton's flashlight. Slowly, carefully, he brought it up from under the covers. Then, trembling from head to toe, Elliot waited. When the swishing came right to his door, he took a deep breath and turned on the flashlight. Click! Oh! Gasped Beaverton. Beaverton? Whispered Elliot. The noisy night even woke me up, said Beaverton. I thought I should check on you. Then he noticed the others. A sleepover! Oh boy! Beaverton hurried off to get his blanket and pillow, his tail swish-swishing behind him. Then he snuggled down too. It was the biggest sleepover ever. Elliot smiled. Then he turned off the flashlight. Click. And at last, he fell asleep, safe and warm in his noisy old house.